Welcome back to another amazing episode here on the Veteran Influencers Podcast. Once again, your boy Chris Levine, and today we have a special guest. His name is Edgardo Ramirez, and he has an incredible story that it's kind of, I think it fits with some of the people that I've actually interviewed as far as transitioning from one branch to the other, which I think is absolutely cool to see different, he gets to provide different aspects of it. But he's also right now a medical officer that is here to speak on certain medical issues that affect not only the veteran community, but also just humankind in general. And there's one specific one that I kind of want to target. I still want to kind of speak on some other ones, but I do have a friend that I've known for over 10 years, and she's kind of dealing with this issue right now. And if there's any way that I can bring awareness to it, and that's why I'm so blessed to have Edgardo, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that I was able to reach out to you and refer to you from someone else, and the fact that there's so many people that were actually interested in, sending me someone that was able to speak on this type of topic. And this particular person that I sent you some information on has been dealing with it for a little while now, and I want to let her know that she's not alone dealing with this, and I want to let her know that she's not the only one who was also affected by things like this. So if you mind giving like a little quick background of who you are, when you joined, and your transition from Marine Corps to Navy.
Yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps back in 2000, right after high school. So, and then I got into artillery. That was my original MOS. A little bit, spent most of my time in Lejeune, K-Bay, Hawaii, Okinawa, Japan, and then being artillery, we train in 29 palms all the time, constant deployments and stuff like that. Did a tour as a drill instructor on the East Coast, and then right before I switched over, I was on I-9 duty in Richmond, Virginia, and that's when I found out about this program to become a physician. Used to be called physician assistant, but now it's called physician associate. The change happened like last week, so they're making that transition. But it's an inter-service school, so it's active duty, kind of like MECEP. And
okay.
Then, it's based out of San Antonio, Texas. That's where the medical schools are at, for half of them. And then did that for about 18 months. Went down to Balboa to do my rotations. And then commissioned last year after I passed my board exams. So started with no degree and ended up with a master's degree. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's accelerated. So it's one of those things where they cram it all in 3 years versus the 6.
Wait, so you went from 0 to master's in 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
What's crazy is I know people that haven't gotten their bachelor's degree and they've been doing it for like over 10 years.
Yep. So it's definitely condensed. You go into it, all you need to apply with is 65 college credits. And so once you apply for that, then they kind of condense everything into a didactic phase, where it's pretty much you go to class. So you're active duty military, you get the military pay. So my whole mantra was I get paid to go to school for free. And so I just did that for 18 months down there, and then you do rotations for 12 months down at Balboa, Naval Medical Center, San Diego, down in Balboa. So it's
like probably one of those. I'm not gonna say a hidden gem, because I mean it's one of those things where you just gotta want to do it. I think that's something you have to dedicate to. It's not something you go, yeah, I'll just go ahead and do it.
No, you definitely if you commit to it, you definitely gotta commit to it 100%. So, and then not only that, my family had to commit to it too, because a lot of it was, spending very early morning studying, late night studying. And so learning how to manage your time properly, being a hat kind of helped me out with that. And so it's managing my personal time with school. So you take if I can sum it up, you just pretty much take a midterm or finals every Monday, Friday for pretty much 18 months. So it's pretty intense, because it's like a midterms or final. So for the ones I've taken that before. But you do it every Monday, Friday. So you got to, I don't say data dump, but you got to be able to process all the information real quick, turn it around, be able to apply it for the test. So
that's crazy. Honestly, when I was MOI duty at Arizona State University, I watched my MECEPs, my students, and some of them incredibly intelligent. Well, most of them, probably all of them. I mean, you had to make it to that program. Just watching some of them, like the stressors of just going through school, and they were going to get a bachelor's degree. And some of them had 4 years to where they had an additional year and they're getting a bachelor's. Now you're talking one less and it's medical. Yeah. That's incredible.
I will throw this out there though. Like, as difficult as it may seem on the surface, I feel like if I can get through it as like a gun rock in artillery, I feel like anybody could go through it. Every Marine, I'm not the first Marine to do it. I'm actually the fourth one. There's 2 more in the chute. There's a recon Marine behind me. There's a logistics Marine behind him. All ages, all ranks. One guy was a corporal. A couple of us were gunnies, staff sergeants. The one right now is a master sergeant. And so I feel like if you want to do it, you should be able to do it. No Marines ever failed the course that have gone through it. So we kind of keep that going.
That's crazy. And I don't want to go over there and be the first. No, shit. So what made you want to transition? Because, I mean, you're almost talking about 2 opposite sides of the spectrum. I mean, you're going from artillery to, medical. Like what?
So pretty much what it was, honestly, was just that I was on the drill field, actually. It was about my tier mark. And I was like, hey, I got to do something after I retire. Military ain't forever. And so I can't do artillery. It's not as fun as it is blowing stuff up. I can't do down the civilian side. And so I was like, all right, well, maybe I should flirt the idea of going to the medical field. But when I did the math, it takes about 12 years to go from nothing to med school to become a doctor, do your residency and stuff like that. And I was like, I just don't feel like doing that this late in the game. And so I was taking anatomy physiology. They kind of put me on the whole PA program and the physician assistant career field.
Okay.
And looked into it some more, found out they had a military program. I actually knew the guy that was in front of me doing it. So I contacted him and then he kind of put me on it and then he helped me out along the way. So now I got the goal was to get a career that I can do on the civilian side and something that I would like to do. And it just turns out that I actually picked the right field. I actually enjoy what I do. So,
it's funny because I heard a few people say that because my MOS is ordnance, weapons, rocket, all that good stuff. You don't want to hear about that. But, a lot of people, they speak about that. They start talking about their transition. It's like, what am I going to do when I get out? And, I'm not going to say it's hard to find, a job that's like kind of like specifically catered to that, but it kind of is. It's just more so of limited to do. And for you to be self-conscious enough to, before you do get out, to utilize all the, the benefits that we have and the different programs and resources in order to find something that's going to help you to transition when you get out.
Yeah. I also occasionally, I haven't done it for about maybe a month and a half, 2 months, but every once in a while I'll find a random unit here in Camp Pendleton and I'll kind of brief Marines on it, the program, that they're interested in it. There's also other ones you can do. You don't have to be a provider. You can be a healthcare administrator, pharmacist, x-ray tech, physical therapy, occupational therapy. There's a bunch of them you can do. So.
Yeah, actually, I think I had 2 of my MECEPs actually transition from being a Marine. I think they both picked up. One was a gunner sergeant and one was picked up staff sergeant in the program, and they were trying to transition into the medical field, go Navy side, and, okay. And transfer their commission. So that's awesome. I love to see different things like that. I like to see people diversify and not be afraid to do something different. Because let's be honest, we get bred from the time we get our Eagle anchor that the Marines are. That the Marines are the best branch and stuff, but as we get older, we start to see what the other branches have to offer as well.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, so like I said in the beginning, one of the things that actually, the main thing that actually inspired me to do this interview, one, I love doing interviews, and 2, I see a lot of people that have health problems throughout the veteran community and just in the world in general. And like I said, there was one particular person that stood out. I'm not gonna say her name because I'm not sure if she wants me to or not. But it absolutely bothers me that I almost feel helpless, like I can't do something about it. And I just want to do everything I can to help bring awareness. And if somebody is out there that watches this interview, saying you end up either contacting her or donating, or you want to donate or you want to help, then I feel like we kind of did our job, Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right, let's go ahead and start with what are some of the most common trends of diseases, illnesses that either A, you see in active duty military, or 2, that you see in veterans that are that get out over time, that are kind of linked to active duty service or just in general?
The main one, probably, honestly, that I see is two of the main ones I see in active duty personnel. It's probably orthopedic issues. So obviously because all the physical fitness we do and stuff like that. But I also see a lot of high blood pressure. And so sometimes it's mitigated by caffeine or stress and stuff like that. So it's not always like, hey, you got high blood pressure, like the gym, you have high blood pressure. You might have high blood pressure because you just got out of a meeting that was pretty intense, or, you know, you're rushing over to your appointment. You don't want to be late. Some people get nervous coming to the medical, you know, the clinic. Right. We call it white coat syndrome. So it just means your blood pressure is elevated because you're worried, you have anxiety a little bit. Drinking caffeine can elevate it. So best time to get your blood pressure checked is actually first thing in the morning when you first wake up. So that's one of them. Orthopedic issues, probably the main one. Psych issues, so PTSD, depression, anxiety. That's a big one that I deal with on a daily basis.
So as far as orthopedic, because I definitely want to, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm kind of fidgety, so I'm taking notes. I'm moving. I'm looking at the chat at the same time. So I hope you don't take it as I'm not trying to pay attention. I'm very focused on what you're talking about.
No, you're good.
So if you had to kind of sum up, like, what would be like some of the top reasons why, you know, we're kind of plagued with orthopedic issues? I would say, I've seen different types of, I mean, I know orthopedic isn't necessarily directed to the type of PT, but having the proper footing, I would assume, or some people are flat-footed and they don't have that proper arch support.
Yeah, so I honestly believe the biggest issue is that people doesn't come to medical. And so like it's preached from day one, you know, you don't go to medical unless you're seriously hurt. So some people, you know, they roll their ankle, which is fine. That happens. Sprained ankles happen. Most humans, and I tell this, even providers jack this up. Most humans, when they sprain their ankle or like they do a ligament injury, that's you're actually doing a bunch of tears to your ligament. So like if your ankle looks like this is your ligament like this with my fingers all nice and tight. Then what it is you sprain it tears, and now it's swollen and it's like this. Now everybody rest it, right? So that's everybody does the first part right. They rest it. All right, cool. So rest. Now the swelling goes away and it heals like this. It wasn't like this, but it's like this now. So now you're more likely to roll it again or sprain it again because your ligaments are loose, right? And so what ends up happening is you got to actually re-strengthen the muscles, because what happens is you cater to that injury. So you're watching anybody with like sprain their ankle, they kind of limp a little bit. They don't cut on it like they used to. They don't plant it and move like they used to. So now the muscles that are responsible for that ligament or attached to that ligament, they get smaller, they get weaker. And now that's where the term, I got bad knees, I got a bad shoulder, you know, it's like that comes out of play, because it's not as strong as it used to be. It's just weaker. That's all it really is. And so what you have to do is you have to re-strengthen it just to do daily activities or just to be able to do the same things you used to do. So for the ones that, you know, work out all the time, if you're dealing with a constant pain from an old injury, like let's say like a sprained ankle, or, you know, not saying you tore something in your knee, but they say like you tweaked your knee.
Right.
And you just don't ever do physical therapy or re-strengthen do the re-strengthening exercises to take the time to do that. Then what ends up happening, it becomes a chronic injury. And so it just keeps happening because you keep your injury in the bones. So you start getting joint space narrowing. You start developing like these little bone spurs, what you call osteophytes. And so it causes arthritis. So the best thing you could do is get rehab. And so you don't have to necessarily go physical therapy. Most providers carry a book. Actually, I think I brought it with me here. And then people can buy it too if they want. But let me see if I can pull it out. It's called Patient Advisor. And it's this big, thick book. Like this. That thick. It's literally just, if you sprain your ankle or injure something, it just talks about different exercises you can do to get it re-strengthened again to where it doesn't hurt you much. The second thing I would say is that another problem everybody has is, and it's very because the way the Marine Corps is built, like, hey, I want to go to the gym, I want to lift weights, I want to get big, or, you know, I do pull-ups, I want to do this, or I run, but nobody puts this emphasis on stretching. And so what ends up happening is as you get older, naturally the muscles you don't use get stiffer. If you work out, the muscles get bigger, but the range of motion gets less if you don't stretch them out. And so I always tell patients that come in, they come in for back pain, but sometimes their back pain is really related to just tight muscles because they don't have range of motion.
Okay.
So I always tell people like, hey, if you haven't done so, or I've had it to where what motivated me to bring up this is I started taking up on yoga when I was back actually on the drill field. And so it's a small backstory, but this kind of relates to what we're going into now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to the gym. My wife was going to go do yoga at the same time. They were on Paris Island. And so she asked me if I want to go do yoga. I said, no, I ain't doing yoga. I'm going to go do squats. And so she goes, tells her 5 foot nothing, 100 pound nothing yoga instructor that I'm not going in there because she saw me come in with her. So she comes out there and pretty much says, "Hey, why don't you quit being a little punk and then come in and get my class?" And so I was like, ain't anybody call me a punk.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be cake. I go back to my workout after I'm done. But I ended up getting broke off. I had a puddle of sweat underneath me within like 5-10 minutes. And so I was sold on yoga after that. But I always tell patients sometimes if you come in dealing with a lot of back pain, a lot of joint pain, everything else, it's probably because you got tight muscles, especially if I find out that you have tight muscles and just different like range of motion stuff. That can lead to putting more stress on the joints because now the muscles aren't loose and limber to take on increased stress. So like when you run or you're stride, I knew a guy that he would run 27, 28 3-mile runs for the PFT. And he couldn't even put his boot on because he didn't have the flexibility to put his boots on, but he can squat and deadlift and clean a lot. And so he actually focused on doing yoga. He was worried about failing the PFT. So on a whim and advice of another buddy, he took yoga for a month. He didn't run, he didn't lift weights. He just did yoga for a month. And in 1 month of doing yoga, he ran a PFT and his run time dropped from 27, 30, 28 minutes all the way down to 23 minutes, just because he can take a bigger step when he ran. And so I always tell patients, always make sure you stretch. If you're already tight, I would say do yoga for about a month every day. And then once you get to that point where after a month, and your body's nice and loose, you could just do maintenance yoga. I'm not a yoga master. I just do it like once, twice, 3 times a week. Just depends how tight I feel. And so actually the SEALs push it now a lot. All those spec op units, they push yoga stretching or stretching a lot. That's keeping the muscles loose and limber. So
I'm telling you right now, for those of you that have never done yoga or like gymnastics, because that's what I was doing for a while, calisthenics and gymnastics, I had about a good 2-3 year span to where I was doing splits training, all type of like crazy flexible limber. It's intense. And, you think you're sore and tired after doing bench press, put yourself in a position to where you're doing these like weird quad stretches or, or hamstring stretches. It hurts bad, but it feels good at the end because it benefits you so much.
Yeah, I actually challenge guys sometimes that do deadlifts and cleans. Tell them to go try doing deadlifts. Whatever your max is, do that. So whatever you got to do to warm up to do your max, do your max. After you're done do your max, go do a session of yoga. And I guarantee you when you get done doing yoga, you'll be able to come back and lift up 10 to 15 pounds more just off that one session. And it's mostly because whenever you don't have that range of motion, you can't activate all the muscles that you would normally activate when doing those lifts. So next thing you know, you're more flexible. So you can get in those range of motions that you need to activate those muscles to lift more. So now you're incorporating more muscles when you lift.
That is so crazy too, because I actually had that issue. I used to wonder, it's like, why does it feel like there's something not firing off in my leg? And this actually happened right before I broke my ankle the first time. And I realized, I talked to one of my boys, and I realized my hamstring wasn't firing off. Like my lower butt / up, like my upper hamstring, it wasn't firing off. And I realized that I had just started a seat job, a desk job. And, you're constantly leaning to one side, or, your hip flexors become tight and it takes away the power from your hamstrings and your butt. So when I figured that out, that's when I became more, I decided to dedicate myself to becoming more flexible and more, doing the whole gymnastics type thing. And I realized that I was able to start firing that muscle back off.
Yeah, I would say that. And then I had a train of thought here that I lost. It might come back to me here in a little bit, but oh man. Was it
the desk job, the hip flexors,
Yeah, so like if you speak about desk jobs and stuff like that, so that's the other thing too, like for bad backs, if you sit, a lot of guys don't realize this, but when you sit down, a lot of times your seat's not in the right position. So to get your spine to be in its normal like curve, because every spine is naturally curved, right? You don't want a straight spine is bad. So it's naturally curved. So I always tell patients, like, if you want to keep your spine in a natural curve, you want to get a seat that's low enough to where your hips or your butt is lower or at the level of your knees. If you sit higher than that, you're putting your spine in an awkward position when you sit down. And so if you're looking for a certain chair to get, you want to get a chair that sits low enough to do that, or like a yoga ball chair. Those are work that focuses, it strengthens your core and it makes your core stronger, but at the same time keeps your spine in its natural curve. You mentioned flat feet. A lot of guys don't realize, and I bring that up because a lot of people don't realize what medical benefits each service member rates. So if you're flat-footed or if you have trouble with foot pain, I would tell you that even though the Marine Corps spends a lot of money on people kind of like, researching what kind of boots to wear. Most shoe companies and boot companies don't invest that much in the sole of the shoe. So if you're having foot pains, go see your medical provider and ask them for custom orthotics. Every active duty member rates custom orthotics as free, and so they'll mold it to your feet. That's one. There's different stuff like that. You got chiropractors on base. A lot of guys don't realize that. So if you have stuff, or if you have back pain or joint pain because you have a misalignment, or one leg's longer than the other, or if you have scoliosis, those things, chiropractic is where it's at, and you get that for free on base. So
listen to all the vets that are out there, all the active duty servers. Go get your back cracked. Go get your neck cracked. Get a referral, or however they do it. Set up an appointment and do that, because I mean, you see so many stories that just by getting chiropractic, that it just like changes people's life, their range of motion, and how they feel just moving from day to day. I know it makes a big difference, because I used to actually I had that happen to me. So definitely, that's great, because I don't think we've always had chiropractors on base, have we?
Nah, Camp Pelton has one that's dedicated just for active duty members, and so
Camp Pelton's about to be packed. We can thank you for that one.
No, San Diego. I know down in Balboa they have one. They have it down there as well. So I would assume, with the amount of money the Marine Corps poured into like the smart clinics and sports medicine, that every base now has chiropractic. So most of the smart clinics have the chiropractor there now.
I mean, that makes sense. If we're gonna advance, just how we think of just basic movement, and what it takes to do our job. All those things to me play a factor in the longevity of being able to do this. I mean, you're thinking about people do this for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I'm at 17 hurting. You know what I'm saying? Like, to make it another 13 years, you definitely have to take care of your body.
You do. And so.
Yeah. So I actually just recently got a message from the female that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
With the kidney disease. Her name is Cindy Silva. I actually met her down in the depot when I was down there. She was one of the corpsmen that was down there. I'm not sure exactly what year that she was diagnosed with it, but I see her putting posts up, and me and her chat casually back and forth, just to check up on her, see how she's doing. Great person, always nice. She's the type that saying we'll take the shirt off her back to give to you, and it's unfortunate. I haven't really dug too far into detail as far as how this actually came about. But I know this is something that she's been, I actually put on one of my lives asking if there's anyone that wants to donate or that can donate a kidney. And I think she's actually going through a process I wish she was here to kind of give the full details of it. Cindy, if you're in the chat, please help me, because I'm kind of butchering this. But I just know that it's something that's definitely kind of have plagued her, and she speaks on having to be on dialysis as something that's definitely getting frustrated. I can see that, because my dad is on oxygen, and he's having his issues with breathing. So what she's going through, it can't be fun.
No, for kidney disease is not fun. So you're definitely, especially if you're on dialysis, it's a lot of things that go into it. That's why I mentioned high blood pressure, because high blood pressure is one of the leading causes of kidney failure. So that's why I always mention, I always try to educate. Everybody hears about high blood pressure and how it's bad, but a lot of guys don't realize, what does bad mean? What do you mean by bad? And it can affect your kidneys. Your kidneys are the most fragile organ in your body. And so any chemical imbalance off of it, it starts to decline. Once it starts to decline, there's nothing stopping it. It's just going to continually, progressively decline slowly. And so once it gets so bad, then you got to get dialysis. So once I don't know, you have to get that. There's different ways you can do it. But if you do it in clinic, that's the most common one. Every 3 days, 2 to 3 days, you have to go in clinic and get your, filter your blood out. That's what your kidneys do. They filter your blood out of all the electrolytes and chemicals you have in your body, and they just filters the blood and cleans it. And so as kidney failure goes through, if you imagine a mesh wall, trying to pick up all the stuff to make sure it cleans it out, imagine that mesh wall having bigger holes. And that's pretty much what happens. So now these different chemicals are going through your kidneys. Your body's not filtering it correctly, and the next thing you know, it starts to affect other paces and stuff like that. And so, most common, number one cause of kidney disease, diabetes, which also is a big thing in the veteran workforce. So, especially if you develop type 2 diabetes. So, go ahead.
No, I was say really. I guess I've seen some vets with diabetes, but Can you like give like a quick like brief description of diabetes and like kind of like go on how you said how it affects the the veteran community?
Yeah. So what happens is that most obviously everybody knows if you have type 1, you're not joining the military, right? So type 1, there's type 1, there's type 2. The best way I could sum that up without getting too in depth, like as far as like starting to speak Greek a little bit, I guess you can say, is that type 1, that's the one that most people get when they're a child, and pretty much your body just starts producing insulin. And so insulin regulates your glucose levels. So your body just stops producing it. It just doesn't even produce it anymore. And so you have to get insulin injections in order to control your glucose levels. If your glucose levels are out of check, it can lead you into what we call diabetic ketoacidosis, and you die from that. And so that's what we try to prevent that. The second thing is, and the reason why it affects your kidneys is because glucose likes to hang out in the blood. And so if what happens is now, there's so much glucose in your blood, it's now affecting your kidneys because your kidneys can't filter everything else out. So now it's starting to make your kidneys go through a lot more stress, causes it to decline. And then next thing you know, you start getting other chemicals like protein and creatinine and all these other chemicals that go in there that kind of lower it down. And so that's one. Two is type 2 diabetes, which affects more veterans. So what ends up happening a lot of times is that when people get out of the military, physical fitness is probably not one of their most concerning things because there's no physical fitness. Some guys still work out, probably not as intense as they used to. But what ends up happening is they start adding weight. And so they become less and less active. So I'm not saying adding weight or just not being as active as you used to. And then what ends up happening is they start piling on more weight. When they start piling on more weight and they're less active, you still intake your carbs. That's the biggest thing. Everybody thinks diabetes, they think sweets. But what really affects it is carbs. If you eat a lot of carbs, so potatoes, rice, bread, any kind of starches, if you eat a lot of that and you don't use it, that starch becomes glucose. And so like it causes your glucose levels to go up. And so as you put on weight, sometimes in some people, especially if you got a family history of it, it affects your insulin. Your body either A, produces enough, but just resists it. It becomes resistant to it, doesn't like it anymore. So it doesn't respond to it anymore. Or B, you don't produce as much. You still produce some, but you don't produce as much. And so we have to find a magic number. So when it comes to type 1, it's really easy to treat. I can just give you a little bit of insulin in type 1, and usually that, does enough for the type 1 guys. For the type 2 guys, though, because you're resistant to it, I got to do something to overload your body to get it to work. So we have to counteract what's going on in your body with medications. And so now that's if you don't. Now the good news is with type 2, you can manage it with diet. And so if you manage it right, you don't have to take any medication. You just got to make sure your sugar levels are low. And you do that by staying active. One thing you can do is you can literally, after you eat, you want to activate your metabolism. So what you do is right after you eat, you go for a 10 to 15 minute walk. So if you eat you eat dinner, lunch, or breakfast, after you do that, just walk for 10 to 15 minutes. That activates your metabolism cycle start breaking down that food you already ate. And that starts to use that stuff, actually use it versus it storing it and get to that point. So that's one. Okay. Now I know I'm not, I'm Latino, so I know rice is a big culture in Latino communities, especially like some or bread for some people as well, or starches in general. Like if you take potatoes for Irish and, people from the UK area or Europe. So I always tell people like, hey, if potatoes or starches or carbs are a big part of your diet, try to eat less of it. Don't eat it every day. Eat it every other day or every third day. Or if you're one of the people hey, I don't eat it. I have to eat it every day. All right, fine. We'll eat it only once a day. Eat a little bit of it. And so to try and mitigate what's going on. And that's the other things too, staying active. You don't have to say exercise. You go on hikes, go on walks, buy a dog, go walk a dog, ride a bike. If you're at work, every hour, take a 5 to 10 minute walk up the stairs, down the stairs. If you go to the bathroom, take the long way. When you park your car, not so close, but far away from where you park at to go walk in. Those different things you can do to kind of help mitigate with diabetes. And so that's why it's the number one cause of like chronic kidney disease if you deal with that type 2 diabetes.
So like is diabetes not curable at all? Type 1, type 2?
No. So like you'll never cure it, but what ends up happening is that if you manage it right, which I've had patients manage it right, they don't take any medications because their blood sugar levels are within normal limits, even while they have diabetes. So it's not curable, but what it is that you can manage it if it's type 2, not type 1, but type 2, the one where you get after you get older. Right. You can manage it with diet if you manage it right. And so, and then sometimes you can manage it, with one medication versus why some people that are uncontrolled, and then they have to take 2, 3, or 4 medications to kind of with shots and injections. And so that's the part you want to try to avoid.
For, I have definitely seen like my fair share of those that have been affected by diabetes, and I've had some friends, some family. Hey, you guys are some of the strongest people I know, because if I had to do that, I'm sure there's like some new technology. Maybe you don't have to prick your finger all the time. I think there's like machines it's like connected to you constantly, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, there's machines now. There's different things you can do. Some people get the weekly injection. That's one thing they can do. There's like a weekly EpiPen to kind of inject themselves the medication. There's things that that you can attach to your body that gives you a steady dose of insulin if you need it, and so you don't have to worry about managing it. You kind of just check it periodically. So the problem is when you have to start getting the injections, you have to kind of, depending on what you eat, you got to kind of have to figure out what kind of dosing that you need. You got to keep in mind. That's the part that gets kind of stressful. You measure blood levels to the roof. Like, oh man, I got mad. I didn't even change my diet up. Why'd it go through the roof? And so then now you got to add insulin or decrease insulin depending on how much your blood levels were. And so,
man, that definitely, like I said, I know you kind of build habit from your parents, kind of having to manage that throughout your early life, but to have to do that is a struggle. It's hard enough already as it is to just focus on just your normal everyday life. Now you're talking about a diet, but then now you're talking about having to manage your blood. Like, more power to you guys, man, and thank you guys for fighting it, because I don't think everybody could do that. I don't think that's for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely not. The second thing that causes kidney failure is high blood pressure. That's the second thing that's the second most common cause. And so sometimes when I see patients come in with high blood pressure, if it's legit high blood pressure, I'll talk to them and say, hey, did you drink coffee this morning? Or, what happened at work? Or were you kind of running late? And some people tell me, no, I just got white coat syndrome. I know what that is. And I I have that. I get nervous when I come here every time, even for a simple checkup, just because they're so worried about what's going to happen. And so I was like, all right, cool. But I always tell everybody, perfect blood pressure, like perfect world blood pressure, 120 over 80 or less. And so that's perfect world blood pressure. If you wake up first thing in the morning, if you don't have a blood pressure cuff, and you've been told a couple of times or been asked a couple of times about high blood pressure, I would definitely buy a blood pressure cuff. You can measure your blood pressure at home. Costs about $30 to $50, depending on which one you want to buy from Walmart or Amazon or CVS or Walgreens.
Right.
You just measure it when you first get up. Have you been sitting down for more than 10 minutes before you have your cup of coffee, or if you drink energy drinks, whatever it is? Take it about 10 minutes after sitting down and relaxing, and then that's your true blood pressure. You can measure it that way. And that's usually how the best way to manage it. Like, you just say, hey, I'm gonna just keep track of it, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I start noticing trends to get up to about the 140s, if it gets over like 140 over like 85 around there, then I would say, hey, I need to get checked out. And so, and then see if it's because I have high blood pressure or what. And then if you have blood pressure medication, take it. I know guys that, they don't take it, because the big thing when it comes to chronic kidney disease, high blood pressure, or diabetes, a lot of times you don't realize you have it until you get either a checkup or it's too late. Like, you go to the ER and, hey, you got diabetes, or hey, you got high blood pressure, your blood pressure's through the roof. So I always tell people, like, hey, just measure your blood pressure. If you don't, what ends up happening is your kidneys are now under a lot of stress, because there's only one artery that goes down there to go give it blood, and that's under a lot of tension and stress, and it causes the kidney to kind of start failing. So
like, what are some signs? I know you said that people got to do checkups, but being in the military, we're kind of blessed to have this medical insurance where it's a little bit more affordable for us. Maybe some people have some really good ones, but so what are some signs for people to look at before they're like, what, I really need to go get this checked out. I could possibly have high blood pressure.
So like, if you just notice, like, when you're going through, if you notice that, hey, I can feel my heart beating a lot. If you have a lot of headaches, a lot of migraines out of nowhere, that's a common cause. And so if you start developing headaches or migraines, not so much what's the difference between a headache and a migraine? Well, if I have nausea, vomiting, if I have vision changes in both my eyes, if I have sensitivity to light or sound, if you start developing those out of nowhere and you're a little bit older, I would say go get checked out for blood pressure too. And so they can normally do that. If you start feeling fatigued, that's a big one. And so, like, hey, this is more on the kidney disease side. You start just feeling tired out of nowhere, no matter, even though you haven't just your diet, just like that, get checked out. You never know what it could be. Most times the patients come in and tell me, I say, hey doc, I just feel really tired lately. I'm not sure what it is. 9 times out of 10, I'm doing a blood test on you just to see what the test is and see how the results come back. And so that's usually what we do. Because the problem is you don't really know that you have high blood pressure, or you don't really know that you have kidney disease. You just have to the labs come up first. If you start having symptoms, that's when it's a little too, that means you're progressing too far. And that's too late, but it's just saying that's when you start developing symptoms, that's how you know it's getting bad. So I would say some things like some other things you got metallic tasting. If you taste metallic stuff in your mouth all the time, that's one big one. Fatigue is one. Muscle cramping is a lot because you're not getting the electrolytes where they need to go. They're not getting filtered the right way, so your muscles are cramping up a lot more. I know as drone soldiers, we hear a lot about rhabdo. It's big.
Oh yeah.
So rhabdo causes kidney dysfunction and kidney decline. So make sure you stay hydrated. Make sure you drink electrolytes. That's one way to prevent it. And so if you start noticing, you go do your labs and your provider's like, hey, your electrolytes are a little bit off, then he's going to probably do some more stuff to kind of see if it's affecting your kidneys or not. Same thing with high blood pressure, if it's affecting your kidneys or not. And so we'll do that way. So definitely when you go to your stuff and you notice you have high blood pressure, start mentioning it, reminding them like, hey, I need to take a proactive approach to this. So probably won't affect it. Probably for most people, like between 20 and 30, like, oh, I'm good. I'm 20 and 30, I'm fine. That's fine. It's when you start getting 40 to 50 to 60. That's when it starts really affecting you. And so,
it's crazy that you say that because I know it's not the same thing, internal health versus like, your what you can see externally, because it's easy to see when someone's gaining weight. It's, or going from a low body fat percentage to a higher body fat percentage. But you could be losing your internal health, and it's not as easy to kind of notice it. It's not as easy to kind of determine it. So just like how you were saying, like, hey, when you see yourself start to gain weight or stuff, what do? You take a proactive, okay, I got to make sure I get my diet right. I got to make sure I'm exercising and taking care of my body. But it's like, well, what about that internal health? A lot of people aren't as conscious about like what's going on inside as they are when they can physically see it.
Yeah, I would say definitely times to look out. Honestly, it's gonna sound kind of weird. A lot of times you can do a lot by what you eat. So your poop, that's one thing. So if you're constipated constantly, that means you're dehydrated. Honestly, that's what it really means. Because if you're dehydrated, if you're not getting the same water intake, your body's gonna pull the water from wherever it can pull water from. Biggest one is your poop. So if you're constantly constipated, you need to increase your fiber, increase your water intake. So that's one thing you can always check out. If you're, when you go pee, if it burns a lot, that's another thing you need to check out. Like, hey, I'm starting to be dehydrated, and so I get affected that way. If you're at the point where you're eating different things, can cause different things like for your stomach to react in a different way. So if I'm constantly feeding my stomach bad stuff, like greasy food, which don't get me wrong, I enjoy cheese fries. I enjoy I'm not saying I have a perfect diet, but you gotta take it all in stride. So like, all right, if I'm gonna go to Texas Roadhouse and eat a big steak and eat some cheese fries, I need to go to work out and make sure the next few days to kind of burn that stuff off so it doesn't really affect me that bad. But it's gonna affect your gut. So like if you don't feed the good stuff like avocados, nuts, pecans, walnuts, stuff like that, those are kind of things that help your gut to kind of help get better. Fruits, vegetables, a lot of fruits and vegetables. I haven't met one person that strictly eats vegetables mostly and has gained weight, like, because they're so good for you. So just increase so just eat a lot of vegetables. A lot of vegetables have the nutrients that you need. I saw somebody talking about the other day about Gatorade. Honestly, if you work out and you like drinking Gatorade, you actually get better, because Gatorade is what they promote Gatorade with, like, replenish your electrolytes and replenish your hydration.
It has like a bunch of sugar in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can get more electrolytes and more water intake from eating honeydew or cantaloupe. And so it literally, so after you work out, instead of doing those things, eat some fruit, eat some pineapple. Pineapple has more vitamin C than orange, so you can do that. And so I'm not a nutritionist by trade. This is just things when I ask questions, when I see nutritionists, like, hey, what are some things I should be telling patients like this? And so increase your fiber. If you're constipated and need more fiber, if you go to the commissary, there's those green color tortillas there that you can grab. Those are high in fiber. And so you can grab those. And so that's things you can just kind of help your diet out wise. And so help you get more energy to go out. So.
Okay. Now I want to go get a steak from Texas Roadhouse. No, I'm just kidding. So I wanted to, I know we were talking about the original inspiration for this actual live. Like I said, her name is Cindy Silva, and she actually sent a few things. So I'm going to freestyle a little bit, and maybe you can help me kind of like put it all together.
Yeah.
So she said, I'm listed at UCLA and trying to get listed at Maryland. Maryland has a vet-to-vet donor option. All it is getting someone to want to donate. I do dialysis every day because I do peritoneal dialysis. I don't have diabetes, thank goodness, but I do have high blood pressure. Mine was found too late. I have extreme fatigue as well due to poor kidney function.
Another thing too that you can't do when it comes to when she, like in her case in dialysis, you don't have to get to dialysis. If you get to a certain point, which we call kidney disease stage 3, once you get to that point, there's medications I can't give you because some medications, they get filtered through your blood and your kidneys. I can't give you those medications. That's the one that's most familiar to most Marines. I can't give you ibuprofen. I can't give you naproxen. I can't give you Mobic. How does that affect you? Well, if you have muscle pain, I can't give you those anti-inflammatories to cause your muscle to go down. I have to give you something else. Something that you can't eat potassium. So anything high in potassium, bananas, like a big one, you can't eat those because anything that increases your electrolyte intake, you can't do that. It affects your kidneys. So like that. And so
man, I wish I could just push a button and I don't want to say fix because I don't want to make it seem like she's broken. She's not broken. She's an amazing person. So, I mean, what can we do as veterans, you know? And, you know, obviously she was in the Navy as well. She is in the Navy, but, you know, like what can we do to best help not only her, but like people that are in like situations like her?
So one thing you also do is just keep promoting. Like I have friends that are on dialysis. I had a friend of mine that had kidney failure, both his kidneys, got a kidney transplant, you know, new chance on life. Unfortunately, most transplants, the average lifespan of a transplant is about 10 years. And so they can go more. Sometimes they can go less. In his case, it went less. So now he's back on dialysis again. He has to wait for another kidney transplant. And the biggest thing is matching. You have to match it up. And so that's the biggest thing. And so there's a long wait list. And I'm pretty sure she's probably going to talk about that too. I know he's been going on dialysis the second time already. Not the first time. We're not talking about the first round. We're just talking about the second round. He's been on dialysis already for 3 years. The average wait time sometimes is 5 to 6 years before you get a kidney on your name because you're on a list.
So are you just matching blood type, or is it more to that?
It's more to that. You match blood type because what happens is your body, whenever you do a transplant of any sorts, right? Anything. It could be a heart transplant. It could be a lung transplant. It could be kidney transplant. Any of those things. Even joint replacements. It's all foreign to the body, right? And so your body will pick up on that. Like, hey, this is not you. This is not your body. This is not your body type. This kidney is not yours. So you have to take immunosuppressors just to get your body to calm down to allow it to take on that kidney. So they always try to look for people that have like their, you know, the DNA that closely resembles each other. So a lot of time family members, they try to go first because that's probably the best solution sometimes if they can find a perfect match that way. If not, then when they have happening, they find blood matches to kind of do other things. That part I probably don't know as much as in depth as far as some other people when it comes to transplants like that and how that works. But it has to be a certain match. It starts with blood type though. First thing is blood type. You have to match blood type up. After that, then you got to start matching like, all right, how's it going to match up with this person, that person, stuff like that. And
so is there, I mean, and like I said, I don't know what questions is where you're at, and maybe something's a little bit over. So, you know, feel free to be like, I don't know, that's not really my lane. But so what is something that you could tell people that are possibly afraid? Because just like you said, the kidneys are a filtering system for our body. And obviously we have 2 kidneys. So like how does the body change when only having 1 kidney? Like, let's say I were to donate a kidney, like, what do I have to worry about in life?
So honestly, your body's like, for the ones that have a healthy kidneys, right? Their kidneys have no issues. Your body's pretty resilient. So what ends up happening is that if you do donate 1 kidney, that other kidney now has to do the work of 2 kidneys, right? So what does the body do? The brain goes, well, I need a bigger kidney. So it enlarges your kidney like a lot. And so to take up on the mantle of doing what 2 kidneys used to do. So what ends up happening is that after about a year or 2 being on 1 kidney, your first kidney, that 1 kidney by itself is going to grow. And so they'll even tell you, I know they'll tell you after transplanting or like a kidney, you'll know, or even like if you, let's say like you're on 1 lung now, right?
Right.
You got to get used to that. And so like it's as your body will adjust to that and go through that. And so you can still, you know, do a lot of things on 1 kidney because the kidney itself enlarges. And so same thing with the kidney you're donating to the other person. It's going to enlarge to take on whatever it needs to do to help that person. So it's going to enlarge itself.
That is so crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so she said, Tylenol doesn't work. She said mine failed at 5 years. UCLA wait list is 8 to 10 years.
There you go.
I had cellular, sorry, my eyes like burning. I had cellular rejection on my first transplant.
Yep.
First transplant. My family was not a match.
Yeah. So it starts with blood, and I know there's a certain match criteria. I'm not sure what the details of that part of it is, but it has to match. If it doesn't match, your body's gonna reject it. And once your body starts to attack that kidney, then I can't take that kidney out and give it to somebody else. So that's why it's one of those things. It has to match.
Shit.
So instead, like, say for example, I take that kidney, I give it to one person. Oh, it doesn't match. Well, I'm just take that kidney out and give it to this person. You can't do that. It's just now you're taking it from different people, and now it's more rejecting. It's harder to match up. So
That's crazy. Like, I mean, now one thing I was actually planning on trying to do some research on prior to getting on. I apologize for not, and I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head, but do you know the percentage of, one, veterans, and two, just people in general that actually are put themselves on the donor list?
as far
Or
as
not on the donor list, I'm sorry, that are donors, organ donors.
Oh, organ donors. I don't know the exact number, but I will tell you it's probably not enough. And so honestly, it's just probably not enough. And so it's that one thing you go to when you do the DMV, do your license, like, hey, do you want to be an organ donor? Probably a lot of people, I know I did it when I first got my license as a kid, because licenses are good for like almost 10 years. I put no. And so like when I was back when I was 15, 16 years old.
Right.
Nowadays, when I renewed it, I changed it and said, no, I'll be an organ donor. That's fine. Use my organs up if you need to. And so, and you can pick what organs you want to donate. You don't necessarily don't have to say, hey, don't pick these, don't pick that. You can say, I want to keep that. You can donate those. So.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, like I said, let's see. If you donate and later on in life you need a kidney, you get to the top of the list. Oh, okay. That's awesome. Well, hey, I truly appreciate you and Cindy, and not only just Cindy, because I don't want to feel like I'm targeting her. I got a couple other friends on my Facebook that I chat with regularly that have diabetes and that have other things that affect their life. I just want to say thank you guys for being so strong, and I truly wish you guys the best. I'm going to continue to bring awareness with the platform that I have, and just talking to other people and just reaching out to people to see what other options or what other opportunities we have to help you guys out with your, to give you guys a better way of living. And thank you guys for inspiring this interview here and inspiring me to reach out. And this was such an incredible, listen, like I don't say this for every interview, but this was like one of the most informative, incredible interviews that I've like ever done. And I've done quite a bit. I've been doing this for a few years now. This was an incredible, and not only that, but the impact that I hope to have from this, even if 2-3 people have heard and get the word out to some people about the different things that we, the medical issues that we hear plaguing humans in general, then I feel like we've kind of done our job, and this is incredible. I really appreciate your time.
Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to leave for the people? I don't know if you do the whole social media thing, or if there's any resources or anything that you want to kind of direct people to.
Yeah, just I'm on social media. So if you just look up Edgardo Ramirez, Junior, I usually pop up. I have my uniform on with sunglasses on, so that's how you know it's me. And then and if you have any questions, I'm always there. You get me up on Messenger, on social media. I got an Instagram page. I'm not as active on that. I mostly keep it just to see how friends and family are doing. But you can hit me up on that too. I think it's Edgardo.J Ramirez 7. I think that's what it's called for the Instagram tag thing.
Okay.
But if you're on Camp Pendleton, you can always find me at 13 Area Clinic when it opens back up, or at the 31 Area Clinic by Edson Range. Those are 2 clinics I rotate by. I'm also the Brig Medical Officer, so I'm also around that area, about 22 and 24 area over there. And then also, if, like I said, you control your blood pressure, that's one of the biggest common ones. So make sure you watch your blood pressure, and then buy a blood pressure cuff if you've been told or have a family history of it. And so that's the best thing to do it. So
you said 13 area and 33 area?
13 area, and then like 31, the Edson Range area.
Oh, 13 and 31. Okay.
That's what I'm mostly at.
Hey, I'm going to have to pull up on you, sir.
No. So if you have any questions, I'm always there for that. And then, and then I also brief Marines on just random stuff. And so if you have any questions, you can always ask your provider. And so they'll break it down, stuff like that. And on the GAL, you can hit me up on the GAL with questions. I have people do that to me too. And so if you do Edgardo.Ramirez4 with that crazy ending of the Navy .mil at mel.mil, that's me. So you can hit me up that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Edgardo Ramirez, thank you. like I said, I'll definitely keep in touch. I always keep in touch with everyone we do interviews with. And if there's anything that I can do, or if you ever want to do like another session like this where we kind of give information about, what's been kind of plaguing, if there's any like something that you want to pass word to the veteran community when it comes to health, and you want to do it through me, or you start seeing trends, I'm all about it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do.
Absolutely, sir. Appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being here on the Veteran Influencers podcast. All right. Have a good one.
You too.